Welcome back to my jQuery crash course lesson number 4, and in today's video I'm going to be going over fade and then also hide and show. And before I actually get started, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any new important jQuery lessons or even tutorials. To start this video off, I'm going to go over hide and show, and if you already know this, then you can skip to the next section, but if you haven't, then we're going to start by creating a paragraph. I'm going to write hello there. What we're going to do now is create two buttons. So let's create the first one. And they're going to have two different IDs because we don't have just one button, so we can select the element. So we have to add an ID or a class. So this one, we're going to have a class of show, and the tag is going to be the same. Let's create the second button. This button's going to have an ID of hide, and then the text is also going to be hide. So basically, when we click this button, then the text is gonna disappear, and then show is gonna basically do the opposite, so it's gonna appear again. So what we're gonna do is add an event listener to our buttons. So let's add it to the first one. Has an ID of show dot click. Now we're gonna create a function, and what we're gonna do in this function is select the paragraph. So p, and then all we're gonna do is write dot show. Now moving on to the next button, we're selecting it with an ID. This one has an ID of hide. Now we're going to right click, create the function, and we're going to do the same here. So select the paragraph, but instead of writing show, we're going to write hide. And this should be it. So let's see if it works. If I click the hide button, it doesn't work. And that's because I forgot to link the script. So source, main, and let's put it here. There we go. So if I click hide, then we can see the paragraph disappear, and then show appears again. So this is going to be the basics of hide and show, and there's a lot more that you can do. So if you wanted to, you can also do the same here. So we can select it, and then we can hide it. So show, now if I double click the text, we can see that it's also going to disappear. So there's a lot that you can do with hide and show, but there's a lot more that you can do with what we're going to go over in the next section, which is going to be fade. So for this section, you can delete all of the code from the last section or just comment it down if you don't want to delete it. And what I'm going to do is create two text elements. So I'm going to make a heading, and I'm going to make a paragraph under it. And because I'm too lazy to write text, then I'm just going to generate it. And let's also add an HR, so you can add as many elements as you want and whatever elements you want. So if you want to, you can even make a paragraph, or not a paragraph, but a div and style it. And now I'm going to create a button, and because we only need one button, then there's no point in adding a class or ID. And I'm going to write show elements, so that when we click it, then all of these elements are basically just going to fade in. So for them to fade in, we first have to add a style of display none. Fix this so none, so that we don't see them. Now we're going to add it to all of our elements other than the button. So like this. And what we're going to do is select our button and add a click event listener. We're going to create a function inside of it. And instead of writing something like h1.show, so when we click it, we can see it appear. We're going to write something different, which is going to be fade in. So now we're going to see the H1 fade in instead of just basically popping out. So let's do that to all of our elements. We have the HR and then the paragraph. And so now we can see all of them fade in. And we can actually change the speed of which they fade in. So we're going to use the HR right now. And we can change it by writing it by words. So we can do slow and we can do fast. So when we click the button, we can see that the paragraph fades in a lot faster than the heading and then the HR. And then if we take a look again, so reload, we can see that the HR loads in a bit slower than the heading and a lot faster than the paragraph here because, well, we have slow here. And there's another way to do this, which is going to be by writing the milliseconds. So if we want the heading to fade in 1 second, then we would write 1000 because it's in milliseconds. So if I click the button, we can see that it takes 1 second for it to load. And let's say that we wanted 2 seconds, we would change this to 2000, and now it's going to be even slower. And because there's also fade in, then we must have a fade out. So in this case, now we're going to make another button, and because of that, I'm going to add an ID of show for this one, and then a hide for this one. And then I'm going to write hide elements in this one, so like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this, so show, and we're going to copy all of this and paste it inside of this one. So we're going to write hide dot click. Let's fix this. So dot click. So dot click, and then I'm going to create a function. And I'm going to paste all of this code from here. And this one is fade in. So we'll change this to fade out and see what that looks like. So this is going to fade out. So when we click this, we can see all of the elements appear. And then when we click the hide button, then we can see all of them basically fade out. And for this one, I feel like we should just use it in milliseconds. And let's do 1 second. I think that would look really good. So show elements and then hide elements. And we can actually make this a lot more practical and functional than having two buttons that will do all of this. We can actually make one button that will toggle the elements here. So it will fade them in and also fade them out. So let's delete this button. And I'm gonna actually let's just remove the ID because we only have one button. And I'm gonna write toggle elements. So it's gonna toggle them. So to fade in and fade out, we can delete this. And here we're gonna select the only button that we have. And instead of having fade in, we're going to change this to fade toggle. And I'm going to copy and paste this here like that. And so if we click this button, then we can see them fade in. And if we click them again, they're going to fade out. And then there's also one more thing that fade can do, and it's probably one of my favorites, and it's why I saved it for last. And this one's going to be fadeTo. So if you know how CSS works, let's say we selected the H1 and wanted to change the color to, let's see, RGBA. And we're going to change this, or it's going to be black, but we can also change the opacity with this. So now it'd be 0.5. We can do this to 0.1. So now it's basically transparent. And if we do 0, then it's going to be here, but we're not going to see it because the opacity is 0. And the max is going to be 1. And we can also do that with fade. So to change the opacity to basically change the opacity, we're gonna use fadeTo. So I'm gonna just delete this part. And then for this one, we're gonna need to have two values. So we're gonna, or three, but we can use two. So we need the time, and then we need the value for it to fade to. So it works like CSS. Let's start with 0.5 and see if that works. I'm gonna comment these out. So if I click the button, then we're gonna see it slowly fade to 0.5. And let's make this faster. So I'm gonna do 250. So that's gonna be a lot faster. So like that. And let's try this with all of the other elements that we have. So I'm gonna uncomment them. Now we're gonna paste this here and also paste this. And let's change the opacity. So this one's gonna be, let's do 7.5, 5, and then 0.25. So now when I toggle them, this is kind of gonna be like a ladder, but there's a lot, the difference is too big. And if you want to make them basically transparent, then you can also do that. So instead of changing the display property to none, you can just do this. And so the elements are still gonna be here, but you're just not going to see them. And so this is going to be for this video. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, then leave a like. Sub to the channel for more content like this. Leave a comment down below if you have any video requests or questions. And hopefully see you in the next video.